Hello, I'm Seth Clevenger, Managing Editor of Features and Multimedia at Transport Topics. Thank you for tuning in to the latest program in TT's Executive Webinar Series. During this webinar, we're going to explore the different equipment leasing models available to motor carriers today and discuss opportunities for trucking companies to control costs and customize their truck and trailer leases to better suit their business needs. To learn more about this topic, I'm very excited to bring in Jacob Brazier and Brandon Larson from Transport Enterprise Leasing, our program sponsor. Jacob is Senior Vice President of Sales, and Brandon is Vice President of Fleet Leasing at TEL. Thank you both for joining us today.
Seth, it's great to be here, man.
Thanks for having us, Seth.
Of course. So just to begin the conversation here, I'd like to start by talking about the different equipment leasing models available in the trucking industry. Of course, full service leases are a popular option for fleets that want to outsource vehicle maintenance for a monthly fee. But of course, there's a price to pay for that convenience, right? And it's not always the right fit for companies that want more flexibility on where and when their vehicles are serviced. There are also unbundled leasing options. And at TEL, you offer a customizable fair market value lease combined with your own maintenance service. So that's an interesting option in the market. Maybe just to kick us off here, take a moment to explain how this compares to a full service lease. How are they similar and how are they different?
Yeah, that's a great question and one that I love to talk about with our customers because the way that TEL goes to market with from a service standpoint is dramatically different than what the norms in the industry have been forever. And honestly, it's one of the biggest friction points in the lessor-lessee relationship. When you think about full service maintenance agreement on a lease, you pay a mileage rate, whether it's on a truck or a trailer, to get a full service maintenance package. But what that really covers is often shocking to the lessee that it's not what they think it is. And when you look back at how much you've paid in mileage charges over the course of the lease for what little you get, that's where it becomes unnerving and unsettling. TEL has taken a completely different approach from a maintenance perspective, and that when you do a full service maintenance deal with a traditional leasing company, one of the great things is you get access to their 24/7 365 line of their employees that are helping to coordinate maintenance and repair on that equipment when it's out over the road and get them back up and running quickly. We offer the same thing, which is nice. But the way we offer it, I guess, is different, and that we're not charging our customers for that service. So they get access to that service, but they're not paying a charge per mile to do it. And then they get to take advantage of our economies of scale for negotiated labor rates across the country, as well as discounted parts that we get from OEMs. We can pass that along to our customers, and then we can help manage that maintenance and repair scenario for them to ensure that, one, they're not being subject to over repairing of equipment, and they're also not paying a door rate for labor and parts. And it's really been a big game changer for our customers, in the sense that you get that as part of the deal with leasing trucks from TEL, but you don't have to pay the extra variable charge to do it.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate that. And Jacob, would you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I can throw my 2 cents in here as well. I think Brandon did a great job going through what we do. I can tell Brandon has a lot of passion, and his team does, when they're talking to customers about these things. But if I'm sitting in front of a customer and they ask me what's different with TEL, the biggest difference to me is there is no variable charge. We're one flat fee. There's no CPI clauses. You pay the same thing at the beginning to the end. It's very transparent. It's very straightforward. It's very simple. I call it a hybrid model that gives you the best of both worlds between ownership and leasing. You're getting both of those things when you're working with TEL, because you have the flexibility to do so many things and save so much money. by able to handle some of the stuff on your own, but also rely on our network across the country. So it's a huge deal. I would say sometimes the only similarities is they're both a lease.
Yeah,
So
there you go. Right,
but
and
we have a lot of a la carte aspects that when it comes to detail that we're very proud of, and I think gives our customers a lot of advantages.
yeah, a lot more customizable. And I think it might be helpful here. We already touched on this a little bit, but maybe digging in a little bit deeper into all the charges that might be included in a full service lease agreement that a company might not be fully aware of. So anything to add to that piece of the conversation about maybe some of the added costs or hidden fees that fleets might encounter with a full service lease that is pretty standard in the industry?
Yeah, the other options that customers have from a maintenance perspective is they can opt to not do a full service agreement. They can do a net maintenance agreement where they take care of all of the maintenance themselves. And the challenge with that is that they can do it, but are they getting a fair rate from wherever they're having the work done? Do they know that it's being repaired properly, or do they know if they're being over repaired? In most cases, especially on the trailer side, those type maintenance agreements still come with a variable charge where they're being charged for tire wear and brake wear. And those costs, whether it's a full service maintenance or whether it's a net agreement, those variable costs can add up to thousands of dollars over the course of a lease. If you break it down to a monthly rate, at a minimum, an extra $100 a month on a trailer, and far more than that on a truck.
Yeah, for sure. There's a when I think about mileage charges and hidden costs and all these different things, a very easy example, and I wouldn't call it a hidden cost, but it's a unknown cost if you don't really understand the maintenance costs in your vehicles. When you lease a brand new vehicle, you're usually getting charged 6 to 8 cents per mile to maintain that vehicle in a full service lease model in year one. That cost is usually 1 to 2 cents per mile in year one. So if you're going through Tails program and you have the ability and flexibility to do some yourself, use our 24/7 fleet support. Um, on average in year one, you're going to save about $8,000 per tractor in your actual maintenance costs that you're spending. So when you're looking over a fleet of 25 tractors, that's almost $200,000 in actual cost savings in year one of that lease. And then as you go through the lease, you're continuously accumulating to those effects. As far as hitting costs, I also think about when you sign up for that lease, you kind of start budgeting that my maintenance cost for this tractor will be 8 cents per mile, and you don't realize that when you have driver cause damage, that hey, that bumper is not included in that 8 cents. You're gonna have to replace that bumper. That fairing's not quite included in that 8 cents. You're gonna have to replace that fairing, and you're gonna have to replace that fairing at cost, whatever that is,
Mhm.
in one of the provider shops. So that's some of the differences that I see that are. I don't know if they're hidden per se, but they're not in plain sight. And when you're running a business, you're running a trucking company where every penny is so critical. You really want to make sure you're accounting for everything in your costs and how can you do this the most effective way, and have partners that will partner with you to help you do that.
Yeah, and I think this whole conversation is really timely because as we all know, the trucking industry has been navigating a down freight market and soft rates now for really a few years. It's been a
Hmm.
pretty rough market for most trucking companies out there. Now there's some optimism. There's some reason to believe that things are improving and will continue to improve, but still not a great market by any stretch. Margins are thin. They're always thin in trucking, and especially when the market is conditions are what they are. So really, it's more important than ever for companies to control their costs, right? And when rates are soft, you really have to look at the cost side. Um, so I'd love to hear from you, gentlemen. Just how much of these tough market conditions factored into the conversations that you're having about equipment leasing these past few years. Are you getting a sense that fleets are really zeroing in on that cost side more than in the past?
Yeah, I would say that that regardless of market conditions, I think that's always a primary topic of conversation in this industry. because margins are so thin, and every little hiccup can have a dramatic impact on a trucking company's sustainability. And I think really what all of these companies are looking for is predictability, and that's what we really want to offer is transparency and predictability from a cost standpoint, knowing what you're getting and what it's going to cost you without any hiccups. So providing new equipment to companies that is top quality equipment. It performs well, and it's at a fixed cost that they always know exactly what they're gonna get.
Yeah, I mean, the last 30 months have been so tough across the industry when you think about medium-sized truckers and small independent owner operators. And we've been doing a lot of cost analysis on our sales side, um, at looking at trucking companies, whether they're going for full service leasing models or they're just buying trucks and they're looking at 60-month trade cycles versus a 33-month trade cycle. How do I really understand? How do I get the best utilization out of my equipment? How do I get my best cost of ownership out of equipment? And all these things are very critical and that's something that we at Tel as a sales team want to sit down and partner with and come up with what are the best answers for your situation. Because every trucking company is different, and there is probably some trucking companies that a full service lease model based on their situation is a very good avenue. And we want to be very transparent for them as saying, hey, what you're doing does work well for you. But it's really just that partnership with them, because what you're looking for in trucking, and everybody knows this, is every penny you can save adds up. Pennies in trucking are everything.
Yeah.
When you're running millions and millions of miles, every penny per mile that you can save, or add to your bottom line is huge. And your third biggest cost in your trucking company behind driver and fuel pay is equipment costs, and it's one that you have control over. So at Tel, we're very proud of what we have, and we've done a lot of analysis, and we want to sit down with people out there and really analyze their fleet. How can we help bring you value? How can we make you more profitable? How can we do that in a way, that goes into how you procure and how you remarket and get rid of your old equipment? That's what we want to do at Tel for these people, and it's huge because if you haven't done that going into this cycle has been so much harder to get through.
Yeah.
So I do think it's been critical of looking at that. We've had a lot of people calling and wanting to say, what do I do with these 4 or 5 year old trucks? Should I just keep running them? I got this full service lease and I'm going month to month. I'm not willing to make long term commitments right now. What do you think the future is going to be? That's what we want to sit down and talk about for sure.
Yeah, and to your point, one thing we all know about trucking is this is not a one size fits all industry, right?
It
The
is
best
not.
option, the best approach is not the same for every trucking company. It's
That's
these are
so true.
all
100%.
another aspect of this, and another consideration I wanted to bring up here is, with a unbundled or hybrid lease, fleets have the flexibility to shop around for parts and service and negotiate rates, right? Uh, right, so where some fleet operators, of course, have their own shops internally and handle a lot of their maintenance needs in house with their own employees. That's more work than, of course, just outsourcing it to a full service lease provider. But in your experience, how much can a hybrid approach here reduce the overall cost on the maintenance side?
Yeah. So there's a couple things that I want to touch on here, as I think about this and why there's some advantage of partnering with somebody like Tel when you think about the maintenance network over the nation. One of the things I think about is, say that medium sized trucker, that has a really good footprint in their local market, but when they break down in Texas or Bozeman, Montana, and they're outside of the Chicago area, it's really hard to find reliable rates. Well, what Tel has done is give you an instant access to nationwide networks across the country. Our team's already went out and negotiated all those things for you. So it gives you peace of mind when you go to that shipper and say, hey, I can take on that new lane and I can do it profitably. We're already right there with you saying, I got your maintenance network covered. If you need help, we're here 24/7, 365 to support you in these new business adventures. And if you have a shop and you have commonly used parts, You just give us a list of those parts. We'll tell you what the best price is, whether you get it through TEL or you can get it there locally. You have that backing, but it's a la carte. You're not paying each month while you use it. You're paying it when you use it,
Yeah.
and that's huge with trucking to know that you have on-demand workforce capabilities with TEL with their 24/7, 365 maintenance network. Um, that you don't have that ability as a small trucker to go to every market and negotiate labor rates. Um, I say we're a partner to do that for you.
Yeah, I think it's important, for everybody to always be aware of what their core competency is, right? And for a trucking company, their core competency is to move freight. Yes, they use trucks and trailers to do that, but I think it's so advantageous to our customers to leverage our network and our core competency of specing and providing top quality equipment and accessibility to affordable labor and parts cost in a national network, as Jacob said, of repair facilities across the country so they can continue to keep their focus on what it is that they do best.
Yeah. And another part of this conversation on maintenance is that, of course, the service networks also matter a lot. The locations. Under a full service lease, right? Fleets may be limited to specific service centers, and depending on geographic locations and also wait times at those service centers, depending on again conditions and where you are, that can pose some challenges. How does this compare again with the maintenance support that you guys offer through your hybrid leasing model?
Yeah. So the accessibility to get in and out of shops is the key to utilization, getting your trucks back up and running. So the problem that you have sometimes with full service leases with competitors out there is you have to use their facilities. Now, if I'm driving a Peterbilt with a Cummins engine and I'm in TEL's program, you don't have to go to a TEL facility. You can go to any international facility that works on Cummins. You can go to Cummins standalone facilities. You can go to any Peterbilt facility. You can go to any Kenworth facility, and you can call us ahead of time, and we can call around on your behalf and make sure you get in and out of the one that is the best available for you to get your trucks and your drivers and your freight back up on the road and moving. Um, so those are all things that I think are huge advantages when you think about that. The other thing is a lot of the customers that TEL does business with in general come from an ownership standpoint. They're used to an ownership model or a hybrid. I do some full service leasing, I do some ownership. So they have their own shops to
Yep.
do quick repairs and different things of that nature. If you want to take advantage of that with a competitor's full service lease, you're not allowed to usually do your own maintenance. You're not allowed to do your own PM services. You got to do it through one of their shops. Well, if
Yep.
your driver wants to come go home on Saturday or Sunday and he wants to drop his truck off at your facility so you can do the PM service and get it back up on the road at usually a discounted rate, um, you can do that in a TEL program, which is which I think is very valuable for truckers and people trying to plan and really utilize their equipment on a day to day basis.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the ability, that we offer our customers, the equipment that they lease from us, they have access to our fleet support, but also the ability to roll their owned equipment into our fleet support program is something that nobody else is offering out there, and provides, I think, tremendous value to their company as a whole. So they don't have to lease all of their trucks from us to get access to that. They can continue to have, as Jacob said, the hybrid approach of we want to own some trucks and we want to lease some of our trucks, but now we have the ability to save money on parts and labor and time and all the headache of coordinating maintenance and repair by enrolling in TEL's fleet support program.
Sure. So another consideration when you're looking to lease equipment is the length of the lease agreement, right? So I'm curious to hear what type of trends you guys are seeing in terms of equipment trade cycles. Are more companies interested in shorter term leases than in the past? What are you seeing in the market today?
Yeah, I think this is one that I love almost as much as no variable charges in leasing from Tel. Is that historically leasing companies want to push a longer lease term on equipment, for 4 or 5 years on a truck.
Mhm.
And when you think about that, the average truck running 11 to 12,000 miles a month, they get pretty high mile pretty quick, and the cost of the cost per mile, as Jacob was talking about, goes from 1 cent per mile in the first year up to 15 cents per mile in the fifth year, and that's a pretty significant jump. Meanwhile, they're often also running out of warranty. And what we really like to do is push a shorter trade cycle for our customers. So they get a brand new truck. They run it for 33 months. They're out of that truck before it gets to 400,000 miles, and before the warranty runs out on that truck, and they can get into a new truck. And now you're looking at your cost per mile being a penny in year one, 2 cents in year two, and a little bit more than that in year three. And then you're out of that truck, and you're now into another new truck for the balance of that comparable 5 year period. And you've saved, as Jacob said, upwards of $200,000 just in operating cost. You're also getting out of that truck before the fuel economy really starts to tank. And so there's a lot of other cost savings associated with continuing to run new equipment versus hanging on to equipment for a longer cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think Brandon hit a lot of the high notes there when you think of that 60-month versus 33-month trade cycle. I think that you're seeing that as a common trend across a lot of the mega carriers where their average fleet age is getting down to like 2.5 years or 2 years is their average fleet age because they're seeing the utilization rate of that equipment skyrocket. That's the same method that we want to take to a 10 truck fleet, a 15 truck fleet, a 5 truck fleet, or a 100 truck fleet. We want them to be able to do that exact same thing inside our model. It's an interesting thing that I did about a year ago, and our sales team is out here doing this with customers all the time. But we went into a trucking company that runs about a 60-month trade cycle on their equipment. We took we looked through it and analyzed and said, hey, if we reduce this to 33 months across your 100 trucks, what do we think you're going to save per year? And the savings came out to be about $700,000 a year in that fleet. Just by taking a truck that is getting a 4 and 5 year old truck is getting worse fuel economy. The maintenance cost is higher. The breakdowns are more frequent, so you're not getting as many working days a year. So all those factors combined, you're getting a lot of savings as you reduce that trade cycle and utilize your equipment more. And the biggest thing that I see is I think one of the factors that trucking companies kind of don't always analyze. There's a lot of them that do, but they don't always analyze when a truck is down. You're losing about $1,200 a day in revenue every single day that truck's down. So in my world, I look at things very simply, like how many working days a year can I get out of this truck? And I think I'm going to get more out of my new truck versus my older truck. Um, if I can get more, I can make more revenue. That can support the cost of a new truck, and it drives down my overall operating costs as a trucking company. Um, those are some of the simple things that when I look at trucking companies and we start having these conversations, I get super passionate about it. I love digging into that stuff. Like, give me your equipment list. Let me see where you're at. Let's see where we can save some money. And Brandon's team does the exact same thing when they get in front of customers, and I think there's a lot of opportunity to save money in trucking companies that go by the mindset if I run this truck longer when I don't have a payment, at least I don't have a payment on that truck. But is the truck actually making you more money? That's the question that we really need to be asking. And I think that's the difference between a longer trade cycle versus a shorter trade cycle. If
Yeah.
the trucks can make you more money, you can be more profitable as a trucking company, and that's what we want to look at.
Yeah, no, uptime is so huge in this industry, and
Huge.
we talked about trade cycles. We talked about service networks, maintenance. I also wanted to touch on parts as well. From what you've seen, how do you find that fleets can get the best deals and discounts for the parts that they need as they manage their maintenance expenses for their leased equipment?
So that's a really really tricky question. because it usually the method is you go to your local dealer and you make a really good build a really good relationship with them, and you get the best parts discount as you can get, and
Yep.
that nobody really knows what that part costs. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
One of the things that I can say is I don't know if Tel can give you the best parts pricing across the nation. What I can tell you is the data that you can get and the information that you can get can give you a very good barometer on what those parts should cost by
Mhm.
accessing our 24/7 breakdown service. And I've always challenged our customers, hey, you're running your own shop. You have a list of commonly used parts that you buy every single day or every single week or every single month. I'm not saying that Tel can give you a better rate, but wouldn't you like to know what other people are paying out there? Like, give us the list and let's just get
Mhm.
an idea of what that part actually costs. Are you getting a good deal or not? Because every dollar you save is a big deal in trucking. So
No.
if I could tell you right now, this is how you get the best on parts, people would be flocking to have me answer that question. 'Cause I don't know exactly what the smoking gun answer is, but I do know that you build relationships, you get data, you build a network of people that you can trust, and by doing that, you can get really good pricing.
Yeah. Sure. One thing that we touched on earlier, of course, is that many companies in our industry operate mixed fleets. It's a combination of trucks that they own and others that they lease. Uh, Again, any special advice to those companies as they consider their equipment leasing and maintenance strategies when they have part of their fleet that's owned and part leased?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things that I think about mixed fleets is obviously one of the things that I always stress to trucking companies is you usually try to find a preferred OEM vendor that you like the best. So then you can stock parts.
Hmm.
But then to keep that preferred vendor honest, you have to have a secondary vendor that you also use, and you can't be afraid to go back and forth
Yeah.
sometimes because you got to be able to keep everybody honest.
Hmm.
One of the things that I could say in a growing trucking company is they fall in love with X OEM, and there's tons of good ones out there. Volvo, Peterbilt, Freightliner, International, they all make a really good product, and they all have their advantages and disadvantages. Um, but when you grow your trucking company and you really become a one OEM trucking company, um, that can be a problem because then you become very dependent on them,
Hmm.
which is good. They're going to treat you really well and they're going to service you to the best of their ability, but you don't know what else is out there and how to balance that. Also, when you do get that mixed fleet, they always say that one of the disadvantages, well, my guys don't know how to manage more than one OEM. Um, Again, I lean back on that's what's so important about having a 24/7 maintenance provider for you that can allow you to run 1 to 2 to 3 OEMs and support them over the road and over the whole country, wherever you're at, and they can really be a backbone to help you be able to do that because it's hard to employ the diversity of individuals you need that are experts at Freightliners and Peterbilts and Volvos.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, I think Jacob did a great job explaining that. I think if you look at you take that same concept and apply it to a mixed fleet of owned and leased assets, I think in a lot of cases it makes tremendous sense to own some equipment and lease some equipment. So you've got the balance sheet benefits of ownership from a financial perspective, but you also have the cash flow benefits of leasing equipment and not having to take residual risk on your entire fleet, only a
Yeah.
portion of it. So I think it's very wise to take that mixed fleet approach for most companies.
Yeah, and we see that that's very popular. Not just on the sort of ownership versus lease, but also different makes. Some are fully invested in one make, but it's very common to see two or three in the fleet as well. Um, of course, tractors tend to get the most attention in our industry. I mean, that's where most of the technology is. They cost more, but I also want to take a moment here to show a little bit of love to the trailers as well. They're certainly important too, and Love to hear about some of the trends that you're seeing on the trailer leasing side of the business.
Well, it's been a rough couple of years in the industry as a whole, but I think the trailer leasing side of the industry has especially been hit pretty hard when you think about post COVID, the demand for goods as everybody was sitting home and buying on Amazon and remodeling their houses and upgrading and all of that. The demand for capacity on the trailer side was astronomical, and we'll never see that level of demand again. But trailers are different than trucks, in that their life cycle is much longer than a truck, and so there is and or there has been for the last couple of years and will remain for the foreseeable future a glut of excess capacity from a trailer perspective in the market, and that really is weighing the trailer manufacturing and trailer leasing industry down quite a bit. One thing that I am seeing in a lot of the private fleets that we're doing business with, they historically, if they've owned their equipment, they've held on to it for a long time, and we're seeing a lot of these companies now starting to take advantage of, the supply and demand cycle that we're in right now. That there's excess capacity, there's not high demand, and so there's great opportunities to get some good deals on trailers, and they're replacing these 20 and 30-year-old trailers that they have in their fleet with new trailers at a really great price.
Yeah.
That's one side of it. The other side of it is from a technology perspective, is just the advancement in trailer tracking technology from a dot on a map to now on a reefer you can monitor temperatures two-way. You take that reefer operation out of the driver's hands and put it into somebody else's hands who's monitoring it more closely. You can tell if a trailer's loaded or empty. You can manage trailer pools through trailer tracking and help keep your trailer fleet balanced. There's just so much or so far we've come on the trailer side, which historically was always just kind of an afterthought, right? It was a box on wheels, but essentially that's where all the goods are. That's where all the value is, and it's important to be able to continue to improve our ability to manage and balance a fleet of trailers and also maximize our utilization of them.
Yeah. That box on wheels is more and more of a smart box on wheels,
Right.
with connected technology now.
That's right.
I see we're winding down here, but I did want to follow up on our last conversation about potential pre-buy and truck emissions. Of course, as we zoom out and look at that, a lot's changed in the last few months here with the future of truck emissions. Right, the regulations that are going to set the greenhouse gas and NOx emission standards are in flux right now. With the Trump administration has reopened the Phase 3 greenhouse gas emissions rule, and also reviewing the NOx standards. And of course, a few even just several months ago, most of the trucking industry had been anticipating that those regulations would cause a significant truck pre-buy event ahead of the 2027 emission standards. So I know this is still in flux. This is still developing, to say the least. And 2027 is not far away at all. But how far, how has this been playing out in the equipment leasing business so far? I'm sure you're getting a ton of questions. How is this? How's this going to play out in 2027 and beyond, to the best of your knowledge?
Yeah. So there's a couple things. Obviously, everything that we do here right now is we've just entered speculation land. Like we're trying to figure out, we're speculating on what we think is going to happen. Now, I do know when I think about that, having a fair market value lease and having so much flexibility at the end of it gives you tons of options when that time comes.
Yeah.
So from a leasing perspective, a lot of our customers are very excited about talking about leasing because 2.5, 3 years from now, they don't know what they want to do. Do they want to keep running that equipment? Do they want to buy it? What do they want to do? Do they want to upgrade? What is that price going to be? So that part of it, the flexibility of the end of lease term is huge. Now, as far as what do I think is going to happen in 2027 from a emission standpoint, um, I do think that the technology investments have already been made by the OEMs. So kind of that Pandora's box has already been opened. The funds have already been made. They already have plans of moving forward. It's going to be kind of hard for them to say, okay, I'm going to scrap all that R&D. I think it's still coming. Um, I think that you're going to see it still come in 2027. I do think some of the speculation might have put a halt a little bit on what the pre-buy that we thought maybe would already come this year. People would already start doing some of this stuff. Um, but it still feels like it's happening a little bit, because if you make a decision today, you're kind of saying, okay, I'm putting myself in the driver's seat, so I'm prepared. I'm being proactive. I'm going on the offense
Right.
instead of the defense. So I still think the pre-buy is happening. Is that to the extent that maybe we thought when we last talked? I would say that no, it's not in full force effect yet. But I still think there's going to be a pre-buy. I still think emissions is coming. I don't think the OEM manufacturers are going to scrap that money that they've already done it. And I don't think at the end of the day, the administration that's currently in office is just going to say, you know what, forget it. You know, I do think that the greenhouse rules are still going to come into effect in some form or fashion. Maybe they be modified. Maybe after 27, will that be delayed or pushed out further? Those are all very real possibilities. Um, but I still think that's coming, um,
Yeah.
in my opinion. In my opinion.
Yeah. Great. Anything you'd add to that, Brandon?
No, Jacob hit the nail on the head, and I really think that as we entered this year, that that was a big concern, but that has in the last few weeks or last month has been quickly replaced by tariff concerns, and I think not related, but I think is also still a good precursor to behaviors of buyers of equipment, and how they're going to react when those greenhouse emission standards do go into effect, compared to what we're seeing now with the market reaction to looming tariffs.
Yeah. So obviously a lot in flux now, and it's a big part of what we'll be doing at Transport Topics is following this and seeing how it all plays out, and do our best to bring a little bit of clarity to a lot of uncertainty at the moment. Well, I see we are running a bit over on time, so before I wrap things up here, I did want to open it up to both of you for any parting thoughts you'd like to share with our viewers. Anything we didn't get to over the course of this conversation.
I think we really covered a lot of things here, so I don't know if I really have a lot of parting thoughts. I do want to express extreme gratitude for truckers out there. I mean, what y'all have done and what y'all have had to endure over the last couple of years, and just the resiliency y'all have as business owners. Like, they truly make America move. I'm grateful that I get to work with them every single day, and what I do for a living. And at Tell, we really want to be very transparent. We really want to make sure that you're running the best business to try to make the most money for your employees and your family. And we want to partner with you and really understand that. So I guess my biggest part and thought is just thank you for making goods and freight move across America. I'm glad that I get to be a little bit of part of that.
Likewise, I couldn't have said it any better myself.
Yeah, and I'll add to that as well. It's a great industry to be in, and it's fun even from the trade press perspective to be a small part of it. So thank you, gentlemen. It's been a great conversation. Appreciate all the thoughts about this, and what we're seeing in the equipment leasing market. Jacob, Brandon, thank you again for joining the program and sharing your knowledge and insights with us.
Thanks,
So
Seth.
fun as always. Thank you.